Hello, everyone. So today we're moving on to the beginning of the 19th century. We're leaving the Enlightenment behind, but we'll see that you can't never really leave the Enlightenment behind where you're talking about the new movement appearing at the beginning of the 19th century that we call Romanticism. And we have a tendency to misuse this word nowadays when we talk about, somebody being a romantic has very little to do with the romantics from the early 19th century, as I'm sure you already know. So let me talk first about our two French authors that are very important in order to also understand the Spanish tradition. Beginning with Chateaubriand. So if you have decided that you wanted to read the Mémoire d'Outre-Tombe as one of the choices for this week, you probably are still trying to finish at least the first part because we're talking about a humongous text, right? But also a very interesting one since it reconcile kind of an historiography with poetry as well as autobiography, right? So it's a pretty unique text. Something that might be a little shorter, straighter to the point, and when it comes to Chateaubriand, is Le Génie du Christianisme, right? The genius of Christianity. But an interesting figure, Chateaubriand, right? Interesting life, obviously, coming from an aristocratic family of Brittany, from the city of Saint-Malo. At the beginning of the revolution, Chateaubriand stands as one of the most prominent figures of the contre-révolutionnaire, right? So we're thinking about this French Revolution starting in, a lot of people like to associate the American Revolution with the French Revolution, forgetting that, the American Revolution in itself is a declaration of independence from a colony, right, to a British king. But that doesn't really transform the land of Great Britain, right? It just gives more power to the American colonies and have them turn into a republic. In the French Revolution, though, even though we like to think that they're both motivated by the same ideals or the same ideas, and we attribute that usually to the Enlightenment, um, that need we have to have fathers, right? Fathers of the nation, fathers of the revolution, fathers everywhere, right? This need for a father figure. Like if you go to Washington D.C., you'll have Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Ben Franklin. We like to think of them as founding fathers, right? And we kind of have the same thing in the French Revolution, but basically, it's an overthrowing of the ancien regime, right? The aristocracy, the monarchy, obviously. I could talk about the revolution for a long time, but here my topic is Chateaubriand, somebody that was born before, lived, during, and then, as you all know, the French Revolution turns into a time period called La Terreur, right? Which will only end with the empire of Napoleon. And both Chateaubriand and Musset are very obsessed, and it's completely understandable with the figure of Napoleon, right? And Napoleon, as I mentioned before, is also very important to understand the Spanish tradition, right? To understand Goya's painting, to understand the need to maybe proclaim a republic in Spain after Napoleon's brother sits on the throne, right? And this is a time period where, of course, we have a lot of afrancesados, as we discussed before. Um, so Chateaubriand starts as a contre-révolutionnaire, as I was saying, somebody that goes against the revolution. Um, doesn't mean that he rejects the idea of the Enlightenment, and that's the mistake we make a lot of time, is to associate so easily the revolution with the Enlightenment, right? Not all the philosophers of the Enlightenment are recommending this bourgeois revolution, right? Remember, Montesquieu was already kind of, proposing a different political format under, constitutional monarchy, and keeping Christianity as the religion of the state, When in Chateaubriand, we kind of have the same thing. This desire to reconcile Christianity and philosophy, right? And to kind of prove that the Enlightenment has served a purpose, which was to clean Christianity from the supernatural, the superstitious, right? The irrational. And now Christianity needs to be reconfigured somehow according to the ideas of the Enlightenment. So there's no conflict between philosophy and religion in Chateaubriand, right? It's actually a place of reconciliation. And we could even say that about most of the Romantic movement, right? This time, Romanticism is a movement that comes out of Germany, then London, again, and then France, right? And then Spain, Italy, right? It kind of invades all of Europe. So this non-supernatural Christianity, what does it look like in a post-revolution France, right? And especially after having seen what kind of supernatural power Napoleon was in itself, right? And that's where I want to move on to Musset, and I will put Musset in a different video because I can only do up to 7 minutes of each. So bear with me. I will put a second video after this one. All right.